I missed out on my daughter's very first haircut, a Milestone event, and I wasn't even considered in the decision to chop off her beautiful curls. And at that point, I really didn't trust this new woman in my daughter's life.
Yeah, that's really the crux of the matter. Because the truth is, milestones matter. Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome to Blended Family Breakthrough, and thank you so much for choosing to spend a little bit of time with us this week. We are always grateful for your attention to us, and I wonder, have you connected with us over on social media? Go check out Blended Family Breakthrough on Facebook and Instagram. We would love to connect with you over there. But hey, let's hop into today's topic.
Yeah, sounds good. Today we're talking about co-parenting,
all right.
which is a big deal for blended families. When we've got kids that are moving between two homes, it's critical to build a cooperative relationship with your ex or your partner's ex. And we've talked a lot about this on the show, why it's so important. But let's just point out two reasons before we jump into today's content around why this is so important.
Well, one reason is kind of obvious, right? It's best for kids to move between two homes who are allies, not two homes that are at war with each other. You know, all the research confirms that the best outcomes for kids when they've experienced divorce on all fronts, academically, socially, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, the best outcomes occur when their divorced parents are able to cooperate peacefully and stay focused on the well-being of the kids.
Yeah, you know, that old saying is so true for our kids, that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. So working toward more peace and healthy cooperation between homes is about stepping up to be the best parent and co-parent you can be for your kids. It's not about your ex or what's happened in the past. It's about moving forward in healthy, productive ways to protect your kids and promote the best possible environment for their childhood.
That's right. Now, I can already hear what you're thinking. Yeah, but you don't know about my difficult ex, Mike and Kim.
Right.
They devalue me, they dismiss me, they disregard me. Cooperation? Yeah, right. That's impossible for us. Hey, listen, we get it.
We do.
We lived through a really long and painful season with Kim's ex, and it wasn't easy.
Right.
However, regardless of your ex's attitudes and behaviors, it's still up to you to do your part in easing the tension and creating a more cooperative co-parenting environment, not for your sake, but for the kids' sake.
Right.
And if you want to learn more about how you can do that, we're going to put a link in the show notes to episode 112. It's called 3 Dangerous Dynamics That Can Destroy Co-Parenting and Hurt the Kids, as well as episode 113, which is how to respond when you're being disregarded, devalued, or dismissed by your former spouse.
And so, yes, it's so important for your kids to move between two homes that are allies, not enemies.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the kids. If you've been co-parenting for any length of time, you already know how stressful and draining it is to be in the battle zone with your ex or with your partner's ex or with that other step parent in the other home.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It's frustrating, time consuming, and it puts us in a bad, funky mood, right?
Bad, funky
it
mood.
It does. We've been there.
That's right.
And unfortunately, that funkiness tends to leak out onto every area of our lives. It steals our joy and often creates disconnection and resentment in our relationship because of all the stress.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've lived through seasons of being allies and enemies with your ex. And I remember those peaceful seasons of cooperation were really so much better for everyone, not just for Annika, but for all the adults as well.
Absolutely.
So, the effort that you put into building a cooperative co-parenting relationship with the other home is definitely going to pay off with greater peace, greater security, and you just enjoy less stress and chaos.
Exactly. So those are two excellent reasons why it's in yours and your kids' best interest to work toward healthy cooperation and be mindful to avoid the common pitfalls of co-parenting. Right. Today, we're going to talk about milestone mishaps, which unfortunately lead to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and loss of trust between homes.
Right.
So let's start with my own personal, I call it a horror story.
Horror story. Wow. Okay.
I was horrified at the time.
Sure.
I will never forget the moment of shock and horror when, upon my daughter's return to our home, her hair had been cut. And it wasn't just a little trim. This was her very first haircut. Annika had these long, beautiful curls that everyone just adored. But her new stepmom, who happened to be a beautician, decided that my 4-year-old needed a new look. One without her stunning ringlets.
Stunning ringlets.
Yes, they were stunning. And I couldn't believe it. I missed my child's first haircut. And not only that, but I was actually grieving the loss of her adorable curls. She looks so different now. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand how this could have happened. Unbelievably, my daughter's stepmom didn't even seem to be aware of how this might impact me. She was really excited about Annika's new look and thought that I would be thrilled. But I was experiencing disappointment on 2 levels. First, I missed out on my daughter's very first haircut, a milestone event. And second, I wasn't even considered in the decision to chop off her beautiful curls, the curls that I'd been carefully caring for and enjoying for years.
Yeah.
I felt cheated and I felt hurt. And at that point, I really didn't trust this new woman in my daughter's life.
Yeah, that's really the crux of the matter. Because the truth is, milestones matter.
They do.
In most cases, step-parents are simply trying to connect with their stepchild when they inadvertently cross a milestone boundary. Usually, it's not intentional, and their heart often is in the right place. And really, sometimes bio-parents trip over these milestone mishaps as well.
Absolutely happens.
But if you truly want to develop a good cooperative relationship with your child's other home, then you've got to take the time to mindfully consider milestones and be willing to respect this important boundary. And this concept doesn't just apply to step-parents, but we're going to share in a moment how milestone mishaps apply to bio-parents as well.
So the significance of most milestones is that they only happen once. So for the bio parent, a milestone will typically represent one of 3 things. First, it's something they've been looking forward to.
Sure.
Or maybe it's something they've been planning. Or it could be something they care deeply about. Here are a few examples. First childhood experience, like a child attending their very first parade or going to the movies or a live production, their first big sporting event or concert, something like that.
Yeah.
Another example would be chaperoning a special school outing or an event. For some bio parents, that's really important.
Sure.
Or shopping for a special occasion, like the child's first dance or the prom or some kind of special performance or holiday. Another one might be rites of passage activities. So things like teaching the child to ride a bike or to shave or drive a car, or even shopping for a daughter's very first bra. That's a rite of passage.
Right.
Also, special celebrations, things like birthdays or specific holiday traditions that have already been established. Those
Sure.
can be milestones for the bio parent. Or altering a child's appearance.
We just talked about that.
Yep. Haircuts, hair colors, makeup, piercings, unusual clothing,
Sure.
anything like that. And then also engaging in sensitive conversations with the child. Conversations around things like puberty, dating, sexuality, or spirituality.
That's right.
That can be crossing a boundary for a bio parent.
Right. And step parents, even if your partner, so the bio parent in your home, gives you the go ahead, that doesn't necessarily give you carte blanche to commandeer a milestone moment.
Right.
Again, a little bit of mindfulness really goes a long way. And the goal is to avoid unnecessary conflict and drama between the two homes so that you can continuously build more cooperation and peace. So let's talk about just a few tips for step parents. Okay. Yeah. First of all, you might ask yourself a few really important questions. Questions like, hey, if the roles were reversed and this was my biological child, would I really be okay with a step parent taking over this role and sharing this milestone with my child? Like, how would I feel if the roles were reversed? Or another one is a really simple question. How would I feel if I missed out on this milestone? Right? Trying to put yourself in that bio parent's shoes. Or would I be hurt if my feelings or opinions were overlooked or disregarded in this situation? That's a good one. How would this impact my relationship with the step parent in the other home?
Right.
That's a great question to ask yourself. So if you're able to put yourself into the bio parent's shoes, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how your actions might create a problem, which could then lead to distrust, resentment, and tension between the two of you. So you want to be able to avoid that.
Yeah. And next, you want to check your motives here. If any of those questions that Mike just asked made you a little bit uncomfortable, you might need to do a gut check. If your true motives are to do what's best for the child and respectfully consider the bio parent, that's awesome. But if your motive is a bit shady, and you know what I mean here, then choose to stop, think it through, and seek some sound advice. One-upping a bio parent or attempting to claim their role will surely backfire and create tension and conflict for everyone.
That's
so
right.
Think and check your motives.
Yeah. So ask some important questions, check your motives, and then you might just need to ask before you act. So depending on the situation and all the relationships, you and your spouse might need to consider the best approach. It could be you or your partner that communicates with the bio parent in the other home and just asks for their consideration. So be respectful and have an attitude of curiosity. What are they comfortable with and where are the boundaries? Maybe they're okay that you'd like to take the child to their first professional baseball game, but they'd like to be the one to take him to his first concert, right? So you can negotiate that. Even if it's something minor, but you just aren't sure, asking for some clarity first is a great way to cultivate trust and ease concerns for both you and the bio parent, the other bio parent. Yep.
We recently met a lovely blended couple who each have teenage daughters the same age and they attend the same school. And this couple shared that both their daughters were voted in at their school's homecoming court this year, which was super sweet. Now, the wife was really excited about taking her daughter dress shopping, and both the girls, these two stepsisters who have a really good bond, wanted to shop for their dresses together. Now, the great part of this story is how this wife, who was both a bio and a stepmom, described how she reached out to her husband's ex, the other bio mom, to see how she felt about dress shopping and would she be interested in all of them shopping together, since that's what the girls were hoping to do. Now, the other bio mom was appreciative of this communication, and she gave her permission for stepmom to take both the girls shopping without her with her blessing. We, of course, thought this was such an awesome story.
Yeah, absolutely. What a way of honoring and being respectful and not kicking up potential conflict.
Exactly.
I think that's great. Several years ago, while Annika was at our house, she wanted to experience her first haunted house for Halloween. This was quite a while ago. And I really wanted to take her because I kind of like that kind of stuff. And but I realized, you know what, this actually really could cross a milestone boundary with her dad. So I called him to talk it over with her dad, and we ended up taking Annika together, just the three of us. And it was actually a pretty amazing memory for her to experience her first haunted house with both her dad and her stepdad. And it was in a season where things were going really well.
Right.
And so that was great. But I mean, I still remember that.
Yeah.
And I think it was pretty cool.
Appreciated
He really
that.
did. Yeah, he really did.
You guys had a good time.
That's right. Okay. What's the next tip, hon?
The next tip is to own your oversights. If you unintentionally cross a milestone boundary, just take responsibility and offer a genuine apology.
Yeah.
You might be surprised if something you thought was insignificant actually turns out to be a problem for the bio parent.
Yeah.
And that's common. It happens.
You can't be predictive of every little thing. That's right.
But try not to take it personally or to react with defensiveness if this happens. Instead, do your best to give them some grace and some understanding. It's hard to be separated from your child and have to share them with a step parent.
Sure.
It's not easy. So choose to take ownership of your actions and just ask for forgiveness. Now, you might feel like everything you say or do is under scrutiny by the other bio parent.
True. Yeah.
And you're criticized over every little thing. And if that's you, we're really sorry for the tension that you're experiencing. That's a tough thing. A well-meaning stepmom recently shared how she simply asked her stepdaughter in passing how she wanted to celebrate her birthday. And when this comment got back to Biomom became angry and accused stepmom of overstepping.
Yeah.
Now, this could be because there already has been a milestone mishap in the past and trust has been broken. But even if the bio parent seems to be overreacting, choose to remain calm and simply give them time to grieve any milestone losses that they may have experienced. And hopefully they will have the capacity to forgive and move on. You may need to be a little extra patient and kind as you work towards building trust with a bio parent. Speaking of trust, trust between homes is so important.
Yep.
And if you want to learn more about how to do that well, we'll put a link in the show notes to episode 131 called Why is Trust Important in Your Co-Parenting Relationship?
That's right. And trust is a two-way street. Yes, a step parent needs to focus on what they can do to build trust, but it's not just about step parents. Honey, a minute ago, you shared a milestone mishap between you and Annika's stepmom. But as a bio parent, there are some things you could have done to possibly avoid this milestone mishap as well. So let's talk a little bit about some strategies for a bio parent, because a cooperative relationship requires both parties to take responsibility for themselves and strive for mutual consideration and understanding.
Right.
Co-parenting isn't just about your relationship with your ex-spouse. It extends to your child's step-parent in the other home as well. And the more trust that you can build, the more security and peace you'll experience, and your kids are going to experience that security and peace as well.
Right.
It's much better to have an ally in the other home who you can rely on to cooperate with you and care for your children when they're not with you. It's miserable when co-parenting becomes toxic with mistrust and antagonistic interactions.
Right.
Everyone needs to do their part to avoid the breakdown of co-parenting. So let's talk about a few helpful tips for a bio parent who might feel concerned that your milestone boundaries could be threatened, or if you've maybe already experienced a milestone mishap or two.
Right. First, be open and honest. It's okay to calmly and respectfully share with a step parent those things that you're looking forward to or planning for, or those things that you care deeply about.
Right.
You can't really assume that a step parent will be able to respect your milestone boundaries if they're unclear about where the boundary is.
Right. That's true about boundaries in any relationship.
Yeah, and that applies to your ex-spouse as well if you haven't
Yeah.
talked about these things.
Right.
So if you've been looking forward to dress shopping with your daughter for her first big dance and you realize, ooh, it's coming up soon, contact the other home and let them know that you're planning to take your daughter shopping for the big event.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell them why it's important to you and thank them for respecting the boundary.
Yeah.
Now, in hindsight of the haircutting milestone, I could have calmly shared with Annika's stepmom that her hair was something important to me and I'd prefer that she didn't cut her hair, especially since I knew her stepmom was a beautician.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the forethought to do that. But in the aftermath of the haircut, I could have shared how it made me feel and respectfully asked that in the future she considers me before altering Annika's appearance.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how well that would have gone over in this case, honestly, because stepmom was pretty emotional and sometimes irrational, and she probably wouldn't have handled that well. It may have done more harm than good. And that's something you need to be discerning around and use your best judgment.
Right.
Remember that the goal is to reduce tension and drama.
Right. The point is to foster open communication and be as proactive as much as possible.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So learn from my pitfalls and do what you can to avoid a milestone mishap.
Mm-hmm.
What's another strategy, honey, for bio parents?
Yeah. Another one is to really be inclusive. So whenever possible, include the step parent and help them to feel appreciated and kind of part of the family.
Right.
Right. Step parents often feel that stranded stranger dynamic. So if possible, you want to be as inclusive as you can.
Yeah, don't shut them out.
Yeah. Step parenting is a really tough job. So you want to be kind and encourage their efforts as much as possible. They likely want good things for your child. Okay. And sometimes it's hard to remember that.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll be the one taking your daughter to pick out that dress someday, but then include the step parent by asking if they'd like to take her shopping for shoes or jewelry, something along those lines, right? It doesn't have to be an outing with everybody, but maybe you can offer some token of their ability to connect as well. We want to be willing to open your heart and accept all the positive support that a step parent does have to offer. And don't forget to thank them for their contributions along the way as well.
Yeah. And last but not least, be gracious and forgiving. Expect that a step parent will mistakenly cross milestone boundaries. It's going to happen. Because you know what? There is no such thing as a perfect parent or a perfect step parent.
Well, I've been working at it. I'm just kidding. I am far from perfect.
Yes, I'm laughing. But seriously, try not to be easily offended and resist the urge to assume the worst or jump to negative conclusions about their motives.
Right.
Instead, do your best to give them the benefit of the doubt and really seek to understand. Now, if it's appropriate, calmly and respectfully communicate directly with the step parent just to let them know that they've crossed a boundary and tell them why this milestone was important to you. Be sure to use good, positive communication skills and don't play the blame game or get critical here.
Right.
And then move towards forgiveness. I know this isn't easy. I've been there. But holding on to anger and resentment is really unproductive and toxic for everyone. So if you need to, take some time to grieve your lost milestone and then do what you can to reclaim it. I actually have a picture on our fridge of Annika at 4 years old with her lovely curls.
Oh, her lovely locks.
And it makes me smile. So be willing to let go and accept that things won't always work out the way you expect them to.
That's right. The dynamics between homes can be delicate. They can be messy, sometimes awkward.
Right.
Milestone mishaps happen between those two bio parents as well. Don't forget that.
It can happen.
Often, we just aren't sure how to respond or what to think. Things can get complicated and confusing pretty quickly if you haven't noticed that already. And the reality is when there's a lapse in communication or a misunderstanding, any one of us can get hurt or easily become offended. Sadly, all too often, milestone mishaps and other hurtful offenses end up leading to deep-rooted bitterness and other unhealthy dynamics that not only damage the co-parenting relationship, but in the long run, it just plain hurts the kids.
Yeah. So maybe you've made it to the end of this episode. Good for you. But you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or even hopeless because your co-parenting relationship has spiraled into toxic patterns of ongoing offenses, retaliation, chaos, and conflict.
Yeah.
We understand how easily this can happen, but we also know that repair and restoration is possible over time.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to stay focused on what you can do to make a positive impact on your co-parenting relationship. Don't give up on doing your part to build more cooperation and peace between homes.
Absolutely. And if you're just feeling stuck, don't hesitate to reach out to us for a free coaching call. We help couples all the time with strategizing how they're going to deal with a difficult ex. Because the bottom line is that you can learn to work together, even through the messiness, to create a respectful and supportive environment that promotes mutual consideration and really safeguards your kids. This is worthy work. So let's all make sure that we're focused on that worthy work.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, we're so grateful that you've joined us today. If you haven't already, would you hop over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and just hit one of those star ratings and let us know how we're doing for you? If you have a little extra time on Apple Podcasts, scroll down a little farther and maybe leave a review. We would love to hear your feedback. Thanks so much again for joining us today. We're going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.